A desperate girl trapped in a straw room, an impossible demand, and a bargain that will haunt her forever. In the end, only a single word will alter her fate. You think you know Rumpelstiltskin? But what if this story is older than castles, older than kings, older than writing itself? Tonight, we'll uncover the 4,000-year-old secret hidden in this fairy tale, and you'll never see it the same way again. We picture Rumpelstiltskin as nursery room folklore, a peculiar little figure who turns straw into shining metal. But what if that simple children's yarn conceals something far older? Older than the brothers Grimm, older than stone towers and soaring cathedrals, older even than the invention of writing. Buried beneath the candy-coated surface of this bedtime story is a strand of memory stretching back millennia. Once you hear it, you'll have trouble ever reading the tale the same way again. Before we pull this secret apart, let's quickly recount the version most of us grew up with. Listen carefully. Tucked inside that familiar narrative are the faint echoes of something far more ancient. Once, there lived a poor miller, desperate to gain the king's favor. So, he boasted of something impossible, that his daughter could spin straw into gold. Greedy for riches, the king dragged the girl into his castle, locked her inside a chamber piled with straw, and gave her a choice: prove the boast by dawn or die. The girl sobbed in despair. She had no skill with spinning wheels, let alone the magic of weaving metal from grass. As midnight crept near, the door creaked open. A strange little man slipped inside. He promised help, but at a cost. First, her necklace, then her ring. And each night, he spun the straw into radiant gold. Each morning, the king demanded more. On the third night, with nothing left to give, the man struck a harsher bargain: her firstborn child. Broken and terrified, she agreed, and by morning, the chamber glittered with gold. The king was so pleased, he married her. A year later, the young queen bore a child, and in her joy, she forgot her promise, until the night he returned, stepping out of the shadows to claim what she had sworn to give. The queen was horrified. She begged, she bargained, offering riches, estates, anything at all. But the little man only shook his head. "Something living is dearer to me than all the treasures of the world," he said. Perhaps out of pity, perhaps out of arrogance. He offered her one final chance. If she could guess his name within 3 days, she could keep her child. She tried every name she knew. She sent messengers across the land to gather more, but each attempt was wrong, until, on the third day, one of her riders returned with a strange tale. Deep in the woods, by a flickering fire, he had seen a small figure dancing and chanting a rhyme that ended with his name. That night, when the man came again, the queen whispered it, Rumpelstiltskin. He froze, eyes wide, shrieking in fury, and in some versions, tore himself in two. This is the story as recorded by the brothers Grimm in 1812. But remember, the Grimms didn't invent these tales, they collected them. Scraps of oral traditions passed from tongue to tongue over generations. Jacob Grimm himself believed many of them reached back, beyond history. And he may have been right. In 2016, researchers from Durham University and the New University of Lisbon tested this very idea. Using methods borrowed from evolutionary biology, they treated folktales like living organisms, tracing how certain story patterns spread and transformed across time. By comparing thousands of tales across cultures, they built a kind of family tree for stories. Their results were astonishing. The category of story Rumpelstiltskin belongs to, the name of the supernatural helper, may be over 4,000 years old. That doesn't mean this exact German version dates back to the Bronze Age, but the structure does. An impossible task, a magical helper, and a secret name that holds the key. Different settings, different characters, yet the same skeleton repeating again and again. So, why does this pattern echo across so many cultures? And what exactly is it we are remembering? Let's begin with spinning itself. In folklore, spinning is everywhere. Sleeping Beauty pricks her finger on a spindle. The miller's daughter spins straw into gold. But to the ancients, spinning wasn't just housework. It was cosmic. In Greece, the three fates spun the threads of every human life, measuring and cutting them at the appointed hour. In Norse myth, the Norns sat beneath the world tree, weaving the destinies of gods and mortals alike. In ancient Vedic tradition, existence itself was pictured as a woven fabric, golden threads stretching across the cosmos, binding all things together. Thread was more than a metaphor for life. It was life. And gold symbolized more than wealth. It stood for purity, divinity, even immortality. So to spin straw into gold is no simple trick. It is to transform the ordinary into the divine, the mundane into something immortal. Later, this idea evolved into what we now call alchemy, the mystical art of turning base matter into something higher. Alchemy, as we usually picture it, is medieval, old men in smoky chambers, trying to turn lead into gold. But at its heart, alchemy was always more than chemistry. It was a spiritual act, reshaping the soul, altering fate, transforming reality itself. Seen through that lens, Rumpelstiltskin isn't just a trickster spinning thread. He's performing cosmic work, and that raises the question, where did this knowledge come from? And why, in so many versions of the tale, does such help always demand a terrible price? Many scholars now believe that stories like Rumpelstiltskin may preserve memories from the dawn of the Bronze Age. Imagine being a villager, and a stranger arrives, soot-stained, fire-lit, carrying tools of bronze that cut through stone and reshape the world. To you, he wouldn't be merely human. He would seem like a god. The first metalworkers were seen as both revered and dangerous, keepers of a knowledge too powerful to be ordinary. Across ancient cultures, people often claim this skill wasn't discovered at all. But given, the Book of Enoch, once considered scripture, tells of divine beings descending to earth to teach forbidden arts, including the forging of metals. In the Bible, Tubal-Cain is named as the first smith of bronze and iron. In Sumerian myth, Kotharwa-Kassis built temples for the gods. The Hittites spoke of Hamle, working behind veils of fire and steam. Norse tales told of dwarves crafting Thor's hammer, deep underground. The Slavs worshipped Svarog, god of fire and creation. Again and again, these figures are described the same way: mysterious, inhuman, dwelling in mountains, speaking strange tongues, appearing and vanishing without explanation. Doesn't that sound just a little like our spinning little man? But why does Rumpelstiltskin want a child? Not gold, not a kingdom, a child. He never explains. Only once does he offer a clue. Something living is dearer to me than all the treasures of the world. Perhaps the original meaning was too dark to preserve in later versions. In the ancient world, offering a firstborn to the gods was the ultimate gift, a supreme price, in exchange for divine favor. To modern ears, this seems horrific. But in context, it symbolized giving what was most precious, to gain something sacred. We see echoes of this in Scripture, God testing Abraham, asking him to sacrifice Isaac, and in ancient Carthage and the Levant, archaeologists uncovered infant burials, believed to be offerings to gods like Moloch or Baal. The pattern is clear. When people sought the impossible, the cost was sometimes a child. Rumpelstiltskin isn't defeated by swords or magic. He is undone by a name, and this, perhaps, is the most ancient layer of all. In ancient Egypt, pharaohs had secret names, believed to safeguard their souls. Without them, they risk ceasing to exist in the afterlife. In Kabbalistic and Islamic mysticism, the names of God are sacred, containing the essence of creation itself, too powerful to speak lightly. Knowing a name was to gain control, to shape reality, to unlock hidden truths. In biblical legend, Solomon uses this principle. Given a magical ring, he summons demons, commanding each one after learning its true name. A name, in these traditions, is more than a label. It is a code, a key, a spiritual blueprint. So when the queen whispers Rumpelstiltskin's name, she is doing more than naming a creature. She is breaking a spell, decoding the power, wielding control over the supernatural itself. Over time, the names in these tales changed. Rumpelstiltskin itself is a playful German word meaning little rattle-tilt, evoking movement, sound, perhaps even the clatter of his work. Across countless cultures, however, one element remains constant. The helper's name is strange, alien, not of this world. This isn't mere whimsy. It may be the echo of an ancient belief that gods, spirits, and supernatural beings spoke in a different language, sacred, coded, divine. In many versions of the story, the name is revealed through chant, rhyme, or song, a form of riddle that humans cannot naturally comprehend. In these traditions, speech itself is power. In Genesis, God creates by speaking, "Let there be light." In Egypt, the god Patar speaks the universe into existence. Words do not simply communicate, they shape reality. So, what was Rumpelstiltskin? A trickster, a demon, a forgotten god, or a memory of the first metalworkers, the fire-bringers, the keepers of forbidden secrets, beings who offered help at a terrible price? We think of him as a children's tale, but his inhuman name, his ability to spin gold, his demand for the firstborn, these are not mere fantasy. They echo ancient beliefs in gods who worked in fire, who spoke in riddles, and whose power could be bound by secret names. Perhaps Rumpelstiltskin is not fiction at all, but a distorted memory of a time when such beings walked among humans. And maybe, just maybe, they still do.